All right, recording in progress.
Um, Hi, everyone. This is Sai here at Krux. I'm the assistant music director, and I'm here with,
I'm Bardo Sanchez here with McKinley Dixon.
yeah.
Hi there.
What's going on, man? What have you been up to? I saw that you were filming a music video not long ago.
Recently, we did just wrap up a music video filming, and it was good. We are doing it for the next single that's coming out.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
There any dates specifically we'd be able to hear about that, or anything you'd be able to let us know of
yeah.
that new song?
Probably early March is what we're aiming for. I don't know when the timeline of this meeting, this interview is, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That's pretty cool. And
Thank you.
I know around that time you're supposed to be starting your tour too, aren't you? Kind of around
Yes, with Tank
March.
and the Bangers. Shout out to Tank and them. It's gonna be very exciting.
Yeah, man. I'm thrilled. I'm sure Bardo is too. I'm really hoping we'll be able to go out to Santa Fe and
Awesome.
get to see that.
Oh yeah, we're
I,
absolutely
I,
going to Santa Fe.
are we doing just Santa Fe? Are we also doing Los Angeles? Maybe? I don't know how close you are to either of them.
So we are in Las Cruces, New Mexico. So Santa Fe is the
Awesome.
closest one to us. Yeah.
Cool. New Mexico. I wish we played in New Mexico more. I haven't really explored that part of the country yet. I'm excited.
It's real cool. If you're driving through, you got to stop by. White Sands is super close to here, Las Cruces, and it's just an
Definitely.
incredible place. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, it's always, those pictures always look beautiful.
Yeah, man. It's a really cool experience to be able to stop by there. It's a big, definitely like a tourist attraction, but really cool place to be around with friends and family.
Yeah, it's cool when you have, when your area sort of has tourist attractions that are not like in Chicago, we have Bean, and it's just like, I don't know the history of it. Maybe I should because I live here, but it's a giant metal bean pretty much. And I think that's a different sort of tourist attraction than White Sands. White Sands are beautiful. Bean is cool.
Hmm.
The Bean. Yeah, I've been to Chicago a few
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, you have?
Yeah. You never been to Chicago?
No, I haven't gone that far, like north at least.
Really? Yeah.
Hmm.
I like Chicago.
Come visit. It's very nice. I love Chicago.
How long have you been in Chicago now?
Since April.
Since April. Not that long.
Oh wow.
No, not
Um,
bad.
speaking of that, um, I guess to get into one of the questions I had for you was I saw in a recent interview you had with The Root that you felt like a sort of like magic from being in Chicago and making music, and that people will be able to hear that in your music. I wanted to know why you feel that way and like what it was about Chicago that was so different from Virginia.
Yeah. So in Virginia, there is a large black population, but Virginia has historically been a very complicated place for black people just because the Confederacy, the Underground Railroad, the highway that separated like Black Harlem and things like that. I think that Virginia just became a complicated place for me, and I think moving to Chicago, everybody has their own work of space, and I live in a predominantly black neighborhood, and you sort of just see magic just on the regular because there's so many things that need to sort of have makeshift magic to exist, you know?
Mm-hmm. And your family isn't from Virginia either, are they? How'd you end up
No, no,
moving
no,
north?
no. I moved to Virginia during college school.
That's right. Um, I don't know if I know you had a question relating to his college and his degree. If you wanted to,
Yeah, so me and Sai are both film majors actually, and here at
Awesome.
New Mexico State, there's actually a pretty big animation community, and I was just curious about
Pacific.
your history about wanting to be an animator and your interest in animation.
Yeah, so I originally went to school for the college I went to called genetic imaging, which to me is sort of a new medium, uh, experimental animation, new medium, the study of movement through media. And I think that it had a lot of avenues to go into. You could do sound design, you could do film, you could do music, you could do animation, and then animation has its own sort of like many subgenres that this, correct? And I think that I sort of went into school with the idea of being an animator, more so of a traditional animator, not really like a
Oh my
Oh.
god, not it should
Uh-oh. Every time.
every time.
Did it work? Are we still connected? Oh no. Oh, I forgot Nate was gonna get
Get the what?
the cable.
Oh,
Oops, sorry about
Jesus,
that.
our bad.
Are you okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
internet problems.
Oh no, it's okay. As long as that's good for y'all.
Yeah, sorry. You were talking about
Yeah, no thanks.
what you were studying.
Yeah. I can just start from the top. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can hear you.
Awesome. Yeah, so it really was my major was called kinetic imaging, which was the study of movement through media. And it was experimental animation, sound design, and things like that. So when I went in, I sort of had the idea, the background of like, I love cartoons. I don't really know too much about them at the time, but I love the idea of making frame by frame 2D cartoons. You know what I mean? So when I got to my major, because it was so sort of like you don't want to do those cartoons, you want to make your own sound design, you want to do this, it sort of pushed me into the avenue of like, well, now I need to study this when I leave school, you know? And then music sort of took off and I had to put it on hold, but then the pandemic hit and I started animating like every single day while we were in lockdown.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
damn.
Every single day. Yeah, is there anyone
Yeah.
who can watch those
Yeah.
animations or is it just secret kept away?
Actually, no, because I just started. I was just like, you know what? I want to try to keep this as far from my music as I can because I believe like musicians are incredibly exploited, right? But I think animators are in like almost at that same level just because nobody really knows how much it takes to make cartoons or animation like that, you know? And I think I sort of like it being something that I can do when I sit down and not have a deadline for, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's more of like a kind of like a pastime for you, or it's like a hobby
Definitely,
rather than
definitely.
you'd want it to be work.
Definitely.
That
And I'm
history.
working on like a small pilot right now, but it's just going to take me as long as it takes me, which is the best part about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that history of like animation historically is just been so messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my God. I mean, even in this most recent year, I don't know if this is all going to be live or how it's going to go, but the whole thing, even in this most recent year, with like the merger and just like the tax write-offs, and it's like it's kind of bananas to think that that just happens. You know, you like create a whole show, you get like 4 seasons, and then they literally can just like delete it. You
Hmm.
know, bananas.
Yeah, and especially in places like Japan for animation. I heard
Yeah,
you're a big fan of anime, and I'm sure
definitely.
being in animation, you know a lot about like that community out there and how exploited artists are. Where like they're
Yes,
working like
yes,
18-hour days nonstop, while
yes.
people it's terrible. It's
Yeah,
crazy how they work them like that.
exactly. Especially because like they make so many beloved animes. You know what I mean? Don't even get me started. Like Mappa, it's like so many bangers, but such horrible working ethics. You know.
Yeah, especially recently where like they're pushing out like 5 different shows like
Exactly.
nonstop.
5 crazy shows too.
Yeah.
Not even nothing like slight, like crazy shows. Yeah.
What animes have you been into recently? I know my girlfriend's been talking a lot about Chainsaw Man. I don't know if you've seen
Chainsaw
it.
Man is great. Highly recommend. It's a little gory if you're not really too into it, but Fujimoto, who made it, really enjoys movies, so it's very cinematic. You know, I think there's a lot of even the intro for it. They took a bunch of different scenes from films and just put the characters from Chainsaw Man in it, which I think is like really cool. I also have been watching Blue Lock, which is like the soccer anime. I didn't think I'd really be into it, but it's really dope. Mob Psycho,
Hmm. Love that.
phenomenal. Phenomenal. Just watch that from season 1 to 3, front to back. Incredible.
Sick.
So yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Blue Lock. I felt the same way about it. It was like I never was really interested in sport animes, and my friend
Yeah.
was telling me, he was like, "Nah, bro." He was like, "Blue Lock is different." He's like, "You need to watch
Yeah.
it." I watched it all in like 2 days.
No, exactly. I was like, holy shit, this is actually a banger. Like, this is kind of crazy. It's especially because, like, I mean, I caught up. I'm only on like, I was so worried. I was like, it's gonna be the end of the season, but no, they're just airing it. It's so
Hmm.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask relating to like all the animation stuff. Um, how did that transition go from you from being animation? Were you balancing both animation and music at the same time? And like, what was kind of the tipping point for like to fully pursue music?
Yeah. So it was actually kind of cool. During college, I was sort of just like, I don't really know what I want to do. I know that I want to make art. I know I don't want to rap, but I know I don't really want to like be stressed out. You know what I mean? And that can be a lot of different things. And then it sort of became this thing where music was making the most strides, even if it wasn't like huge leaps and bounds. It was the one where I was like, okay, I can sort of see where the trajectory of it is going to be if I
Mhm.
keep at it, you know? So I sort of put animation on the back burner while I made music and found ways to keep me afloat within Richmond, you know? So animation didn't really come back until it was the pandemic. Like I totally stopped doing it pretty much.
Hmm, damn, that's really cool. That like
Thanks.
still keeping that like the not necessarily like a side hustle, but like keeping those interests afloat, like not letting that side of yourself kind of like go away.
Thanks. Yeah, it definitely was like, I mean, it's it's nice because I think during that time it was something that I could just really sit and be patient and just do for like hours and be like quiet. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like I was wasting anything. It was like I'm learning a skill. You know, it's like animation is really dope. It's really cool to do it, and I have a great time being able to do like frame by frame animation. You know, and I think that it was like the ideal skill. You know, all I needed was my 2013 like Mac,
Hmm.
a tablet, like a shitty tablet, and I just would sit, turn on anime, you know, and watch Craig and Creek. Just do that for like hours.
Yeah.
Is your approach to animation similar to writing music, creating music?
So actually, it's really different. I think the cool thing. So I'm working on this little pilot right now where it's about these like two kids, and the cool thing with animation is that it forces you to take like the back burner. Like I was like, oh yeah, I can do music, I can do the sound, I can do the music, I can also do the rough animation, and I can do the clean animation. And it was sort of this thing where it was like, oh my god, it's been 9 hours and I'm only drawn like 2 seconds, not even, bro. You know what I mean? It's just like I sort of had to be like, I have to delegate I have to delegate stuff to other people, you know. So now with this, with unlike music where it's like, no, I like arrange it, I like sort of write everything, and then I sort of have people play what I want them to play. This it's like, oh no, I have to take time to actually like you're gonna have to do this and be in charge of this because if not, I'm going to be sitting here and drawing the left eye for 9 hours and nothing is going to happen. I'm just gonna it's gonna be I can't do it. So
Yeah,
I think it's the exact opposite. I sort of let other people do it, you know?
I get you.
It sounds somewhat similar to how at least you've described the last album was created of
Mhm.
asking people and waiting for them to get back to you about their parts and then merging them all together. Somewhat similar.
Yeah, that's a great connection, brother. Yeah. No, exactly. Cool. I didn't think about that. So dope.
I wanted to ask relating to your last album For My Mama, in that process of like writing some of these songs with like I know like a harp was a very important part of that project. How did that work? Like I don't know if you play instruments yourself, but like being able to direct someone towards like a sound you were trying to achieve across the project because there's so many like various ideas you had across it that I think like you did so well.
Thank you. So, yeah, this one's interesting because I didn't do that on this album. This most recent album, it sort of is like a lot of we had an idea and we went in and we did it over a certain amount of days. But I used to record my music by just biking around the city with whatever I could find. You know what I mean? I had a harpist in mind. For my mom was done. Harp was done by Caroline. She's awesome, and I would just sort of had this mindset that's like all right, I have a lot of ideas, but I have to be aware that other people need time. You know, it's like everybody can't do everything all the time. In a perfect world, it would all be made immediately whenever I have an idea. You know what I mean? So, and I can't. I have to be realistic because it's just how people work. You know, and if you get, I found out that people either are going through it and need an outlet to express, or they're really comfortable in that moment and they have the ability to take time and think about what they're recording. So I sort of would send these ideas and like rough ideas out to people, and I would just be like, get back to me whenever you can. For like specific things like harp, I would be like, take your time and let me know when you're ready, and I'll come get you, and I'll come over to wherever you are, where your harp is, because that's just big. I'll come over and I'll record it. Whereas with like bass, I would send it to like 2 or 3 people, and then whoever got back whenever they could. Because I mean, that's the other thing you have to take into account. Some people would just never get back, which is
Mhm.
fine. It is what it is. That album took 3 years to make, so I sort of just would send it out, and whoever got back to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that like kind of gets lost in the process of, not necessarily lost, but in the public eye gets lost in the process of making music. Like so many people kind of perceive it as this like constantly flowing like action that you're taking when making music, but it takes so much more time behind the scenes of like actually getting work done and letting the creative flow like flourish in people.
Definitely, definitely.
I was gonna say kind of a sillier question. Do you ever wish you had clones to like help you create animation or music? Because
Um, yeah, not really. I think that I like the tempo I'm moving right now. I don't feel like I'm wasting time right now, or I'm like losing out on things. I have a nice place in Chicago. I work like during some days of the week. Some days I'll write a little music, some days I'll just draw all day, and I think the tempo is really nice right now, especially because soon it's going to be more interviews and more touring and more things like that, and I think I'm okay right now. Maybe soon I would wish I would have clones. I also like experiencing everything. So
yeah,
I would have to kill my clone eventually. As those things go, you cannot have two. So
I have this ongoing argument with a few friends of mine of like, yeah, no, I would totally have some clones just to get stuff done. Sometimes it's so infuriating,
Mhm.
especially working on films and wanting to have stuff done. And I'm sure you can relate of like, come on, I need you to do this. Can you please get back to me? And
exactly.
if I just had a
Mhm.
few clones, we'd be cool. I know we all have the all same understanding, so we would never get jealous of each other. Like.
That's what you say until you gotta fight two of you, and they're the exact same strength as you. They know all your moves.
Make it
They know
interesting.
all your moves. You haven't been
They know, yeah,
practicing.
That's why we get along.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like I know we would get along, so we'd get along.
You wouldn't be able to fight anyone at all. No one would come out winning.
Yeah, exactly. It would all end with all of you punching each other in the jaw at the exact same time.
That's funny. Um, so I think it's interesting. I want to kind of like wrap around to this other question I had, but how you talk about like your workflow and how you kind of have this like almost like a work life balance in a way, like in a music artist perspective, where like you can spend time drawing, you can spend time like not thinking about music, although it is your career. Um, I think it's kind of cool how you're developing these like healthier habits where like in an interview I was just watching from not long ago with like Kendrick and Rick Rubin, right? Rick Rubin like asked Kendrick if he's into meditation and if he practices it at all. And Kendrick like responds saying he's like, I have to. He's like, I think about music nonstop. And he's like, without being able to distance myself for that 30 minutes out of the day, he's like, I would basically go insane. He's like, it, just thinking about that for an artist to be able to do that is really good, especially at the earlier stage, like not obsessing over
Definitely,
this.
definitely. I think I had to, because it was sort of this thing where it's like I always sort of knew my music was dope. You sort of have to make music, especially as time goes on. I've been rapping since like 2012, yeah. And I sort of never like I mean my first big record was 2016, next one was 2017, For My Mama was 2021. I sort of had to be patient. And I think patience sort of comes with knowing you got something good. You have to sort of be aware that it'll take time to catch on. You can't be mad. I used to just yell into the sun. I used to just be like, why am I not this? Why am I not this? And I realized like I've been bitter and I've been sweet, and it's sort of like the best place is just be in my own business. I really don't. I think I'm not really worried anymore about my timeline because I know that that's why I just take as much time as I need. Because eventually it's gonna be busy, and then eventually I'm gonna be like, oh, drats, darn. Yeah. Wish I was drawing right now, but I have good problems. It's good problems to have. Well, I mean, I could have some other hobby, like I really love bowling. I cannot bowl right now. But
Yeah.
it's like, no, I could just draw.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Um,
Did you look like you had a
yeah, I
question in
was I
mind?
was gonna say, how did you get to that point? Because it feels like there at some point was this frustration of
Mhm.
maybe not necessarily being where you wanted to be or happy where you were at. So how did you get to that point of being, I guess, somewhat content?
Yeah, so I sort of always knew the where I wanted to land with my music. I had this idea. That's why I did a trilogy. With the trilogy, you could sort of map it out, and I mapped out where I wanted to go. So that was a big part of it. And then in 2000 and like 2020, maybe 2019, I just took the whole year off of music. I worked on a farm. I built communities in other mediums. That's when I started doing like animation stuff. I sort of found people in that. I think that it became this thing where I took a step back from music and realized that the world is just so much bigger. And I think even in those little moments, I spent a lot of time with myself.
Mhm.
I became very confident in who I was. And I think that sort of has allowed me to, like, all that accumulated has allowed me to sort of be like, I can say no. You know what I mean? I think also being a rapper, you have to sort of be like, I can say no because people will try to, like, they'll really try to screw you over sometimes if you're a rapper. And I think all of that together has allowed me to be like, actually, I don't want to do this right now. I'm going to go play video games for 2 hours. I just don't want to do it. It's like, why would I want to do this right now? So that's really how it was.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to hear that it's not necessarily always got to be that grind. Because I definitely get caught up in that. Humbly
Definitely.
knowing you're the shit.
I appreciate that. Honestly, it really is just like, I mean, I don't really listen to my first two albums, and For My Mama even is one where I have to like be in a mindset to listen to it. But I always sort of knew, like, even in college, I was like, all right, I'm making Who Taught You to Hate Yourself. It's not the best, but I go to other freshmen in my college that play the saxophone and the keys, and they're also not the best. But I know by the time I get to the album that I want to be making, will be probably a little bit better. And if I sort of just keep creating on my own, and while keeping these connections and communications with this community, then eventually we're all gonna be at a point where I'm like, now I have an idea that maybe you can play. And I think it just sort of takes time. Like I was aware of that.
It's sounds like a lot of maturity coming from you for being like how young you
Thanks.
were at the time. I feel like it takes some people a lot of time to kind of
Oh
realize
yeah.
that.
I mean, I was really just like, I used to be way more like, why are no one this? You know what I mean? Like, why is no one listening to me? And this is like, honestly, even before For My Mama, like, the albums before For My Mama weren't bad, but that wasn't nothing crazy. For My Mama was the one where it was just like, all right, people aren't listening to me, but that's fine. I started doing my shows and being like, whenever I would do a show for an audience, I'd be like, y'all heard it first. Remember that. You know what I mean? And it sort of becomes this thing where people do remember that. It
Yeah.
just sort of gets bigger and bigger as you go on, and it takes time. And I'm very aware of that because if I don't have time, then I can't draw. If I can't draw, then that sucks. It's like I like being able to draw. Going on tour is cool, but I have a house. I pay rent. I
Yeah.
live in my apartment sometimes.
Um for so referring back to those older records and kind of that younger time in your life, what were those house parties like for you performing? And like were there any like specific memories you have of that or crazy stories from those?
Yeah, honestly, so Richmond, Virginia is a really big punk scene. Like we have a really
Mm.
big punk scene, and we had a really big punk scene, and it's just like I sort of came up in an era, early 2010s. I was in college, mid 2010s, sort of, and then all the way up.
Disconnect again.
I don't know. I don't think so.
No, it might be him.
Oh no, I hate this.
We also have 10 minutes, so closing in,
We'll close it out.
we'll have to.
Hopefully,
We'll be able to ask him to join back in and keep recording if he wants to.
sure.
If he has time.
If he has time.
Yeah. Bubble jackets, pockets full packets. Gon' just ask for me. Ain't seen grams in a minute. I'm feeling like that apathy. Thinking that they passing me. Ain't beyond. Actually, I'm doing it, so I'm blow my.